If you're a genuine American muscle car fan, or if you've attended any car shows in your area, or maybe even if you've listened to Kendrick Lamar's new album, then the chances are you've heard of a Buick Regal GNX by now. But I don't think that most of us truly understand how iconic of a car this beast was during its era, and even now, almost 40 years later. So without further ado, let's go ahead and answer the question to the title of this video, which is the Buick Regal GNX the best American muscle car ever made? Let's find out. In 1976, Buick introduced the first generation Regal trim to its lineup that took over the discontinued Buick Century moniker, and this car came equipped with Buick's standard resurrected 3.6 liter V6 engine that they previously used in their Skylark vehicles, making this car the only mid-size vehicle in the entire country to offer a V6 engine instead of the traditional V8 engines at the time. Even though this car came equipped with a V6 engine, the car itself instantly became a hit with the younger generation as they liked the exterior style of the car and the interior features such as this wood grain trim on the dashboard, the reclining bucket seats, as well as door pull straps and bench seats with center armrest, and of course a starting MSRP of $4,910 or equivalent to $26,300 today definitely helped sales, as this car quickly rose to the third best selling car in the nation, only behind the iconic Monte Carlo and the Cutlass Supreme. In 1978, however, Buick decided to downsize the Regal to a 3.2 liter V6 engine as the base option and an optional revised 3.8 liter V6 engine for an additional fee that later on became the standard in 1980. And initially the engine was attached to a 3-speed manual transmission, but later on it got switched out to an automatic transmission, and 1978 saw the Regal say goodbye to the sedans and only become available in the coupes. And also funny enough, 1978 was also the same year that the first turbocharged V6 Regal became available as well, labeled as the Regal Sport Coupe, producing 165 horsepower initially, but over time saw the horsepower number go up to 180 by 1982, where in February of 1982, the Buick Grand National made its first debut, and it actually got its name from that year's NASCAR Winston Cup Grand National Series, and this model came with a naturally aspirated V6 engine, producing 125 horsepower and 205 pound-feet of torque, but since this car was mainly for a NASCAR event, they ended up only producing 215 of them. 1983, which is the following year, did not see the Grand National in production, but in 1984 the Grand National returned, and it was now in all black, equipped with the turbocharged 3.8 liter V6 engine, putting out 200 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. And this car, which was labeled as the little V6 at the time, was just straight up smoking all the big boy V8 engines in the quarter-mile race with a time of 15.9 seconds at just 10 pounds of boost. Now 1985 did not see any changes made to the specs of the vehicle, but 1986 saw another upgrade in the engine's air intercooling system, which boosted the horsepower to 235 and the torque to 330. But sadly for Buick and every other car company, the oil crisis in the 1980s shut down all the fun car companies were having with these gas guzzling fast cars, and they quickly had to shift to smaller 4-cylinder vehicles if they didn't want to see themselves go bankrupt, and Buick definitely was not no exception to this rule. So they decided that for the final production year of this generation of the Regal to go out with a bang, and that's why they introduced the 1987 limited production Buick GNX, which stood for Grand National Experimental, made in partnership with McLaren, and Buick only produced 547 of these cars, with one being in Kendrick Lamar's new album cover, and with this car putting out around 300 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque, allowing this car to smoke cars such as the Ferrari F40 and even the Porsche 930 with a 0 to 60 mile time of 4.6 seconds and a quarter-mile time of 12.7 seconds at 113 miles per hour, which would literally still be impressive numbers for a $50,000 performance cars today. And it's honestly just funny to think that the most iconic American muscle car doesn't even have a V8 engine in it, but that just goes to show you how special this beast was and still is. Now if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content like this.